I never expected a night with the waitress would lead to a shocking CEO revelation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The diner was dark and smoke swirled through the air, a hazy mixing of fries and desperation. My heart thudded in my chest as I watched her. She moved like a shadow, quick and silent, but when she smiled, it lit up the room like fireworks. It was a jarring contrast to the grinding noise of plates and syrupy chatter around us. We had just shared a moment, a quick laugh over burnt toast. Her name was Emma, a whimsy in an otherwise drab world. I could feel the weight of my troubles slip away, at least for a few seconds. My life, my impending job loss, you can't escape it, it was suffocating. Yet here, by the bright neon "open" sign, we laughed like the grim reality didn't exist. But there was something more. A spark behind her eyes. I sensed it the moment she leaned closer, as her fingers brushed over my trembling hand. You have to be careful about what you uncover. The chill in her voice sent ripples down my spine. What did she mean? Suddenly, the door swung open, slamming against the wall. A tall figure marched in, commanding attention. The whirlwind followed him, just a familiar face at the front desk of my soon-to-be ex-employer. Jerry. His eyes scanned the room and locked onto me. My stomach lurched. I had no idea he'd be here. We need to talk, he said, voice low, tension thick enough to slice through. Emma's smile faded, and she shifted uncomfortably. There was something she was hiding, a truth lurking behind her captivating facade. Her eyes darted to Jerry, then back to me, and I could sense the shift. The air crackled. The relationship between the three of us was shifting into something dangerously uneven. Fear clenched my chest tighter, stealing my breath. "I'll be right back," I managed to say, but the worry in her gaze said more than words. I walked towards Jerry, every step heavy under the weight of anticipation. The diner buzzed around me, but all I could hear was my heartbeat. "We need to talk about the merger, and the consequences. It's bigger than you think," he said, lowering his voice as if afraid the walls themselves might hear. The words hit me hard, a sudden avalanche of dread. What merger? What consequences? My mind raced, blurring thoughts into a jagged mess. I turned to look back at Emma, but she stood frozen, a specter of uncertainty. And in that moment, I realized everything was about to change. Who is she, really? I whispered, hoping against hope for clarity, for answers. The glimmer of her smile haunted me, but the foreboding weight of Jerry's presence crushed any comfort it might have given. I turned again and found her gaze locked onto mine, full of mystery, fear, and a powerful allure I couldn't resist. Just like that, the air shifted, and I felt the icy fingers of fate tighten around my throat. What I had stumbled into was potentially life-altering. Torn between loyalty and curiosity, I stood on the edge of discovery. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The clang of the diner's kitchen door echoed in my ears as I turned back toward Jerry. The air around us thickened with tension, a curtain drawn close to block out the world's brightness. What do you mean, it's bigger than I think? I demanded, a tremor of desperation threading through my voice. He glanced back toward Emma, who stood watching from the corner, and then leaned in closer, lowering his voice further. The merger is more than just business. There are people involved who won't let this go smoothly. Your position isn't just at risk, this involves more than just you. His words wrapped around me like barbed wire, each syllable twisting tighter, suffocating the fragile comfort I had found in Emma's laughter. That I could feel the contrast of her warmth and Jerry's chill, how quickly dreams from a single evening could combust into the nightmare of reality. I wanted to ask who those people were, what threat loomed just out of view, but I could only muster an uneasy silence. And then, I noticed Emma fidgeting, her eyes shifting between Usen Island caught in a growing storm. Listen, I will do what I can to protect you, Jerry said, suddenly serious, but you need to be cautious. You don't understand who you're dealing with. The sincerity in his warning cut through my fog of confusion, igniting flickers of panic. What had Emma pulled me into? My gaze flickered back to her, caught in a throbbing silence that begged for release. Her eyes were wide, mirroring a complexity that crackled just beneath her surface. I needed to know what she knew, but just as I turned my back to Jerry, a thought brushed against the edges of my mind, a truth hovering just out of reach. Emma, I called, feeling urgency rise within me. She took a tentative step forward, her confidence wavering, the smile that once disarmed me now replaced by a somber crease in her brow. What's happening? I asked, my voice breaking slightly. She opened her mouth, hesitating under the weight of uncertainty, and then whispered, there's something I didn't tell you about my past. She glanced at Jerry again, and I could see him silently urging her to back down. My heart raced. What do you mean? Just tell me. I deserve to know. As if compelled by desperation, she took another step closer. The flickering neon light glinted in her eye, illuminating a storm of emotions. There was fear, yes, but also something like resolve. You need to protect yourself, she said, her voice scarcely above a whisper. There are things I'm involved in that aren't safe, things that can hurt you. And just like that, the laughter we shared seemed a lifetime ago, replaced by jagged edges of uncertainty. A renewed sting of betrayal coiled in my gut, but the flicker of hope remained, a silent promise in her gaze that I didn't know how to interpret. Protect me? I scoffed, hurt and frustration bubbling over. Here I am, trying to unravel this knot of chaos, and you're telling me to run? She leaned closer, urgency brightening her features. No, not run. Understand. You can help unravel it with me. I just need you to trust me. The vulnerability in her plea struck a chord within me, but the truth felt like a riddle I was unable to solve. What if you're the reason I'm in danger? The harsh words left a bitter taste, but every pulse of my heart screamed inwardly to connect with her. I'm not, she said fiercely, her passion igniting a flame of belief. I'm trying to shield you from the very people who are after me. That's why you should be careful about digging too deep. My head spun with conflicting feelings, this strange pull toward Emma and the fear of everything unraveling. Just then, the diner door swung open again as a group of raucous patrons entered, bringing chaos and laughter like the tide smothering me in their waves. Turning back towards Jerry, I found his expression unreadable, carefully masking a storm underneath. Did he know more than he was letting on? Was he part of this very peril Emma was desperately trying to shield me from? Before I could puzzle it out, a sudden shout rippled through the diner. Hey! You! A figure emerged from a table clustered with rowdy voices, pointing straight at me. The atmosphere shifted, the laughter crystallizing into chilling silence. You're the one messing around with our girl. My heart plummeted. The accusation cut through the hum of chatter, igniting my senses. The word struck like a bell tolling for doom, pulling the veil away from the hidden depths of the life I had unwittingly stumbled into. Emma's face twisted in horror as the group shifted their focus towards us, a storm of looming threats descending. I momentarily caught a glimpse of reflection in her eyes, a haunting truth that we had crossed into a world neither of us could navigate alone. Before I could process this new danger, I felt a hand clamping on my shoulder. The stranger loomed before me, his gaze full of malice. You better watch yourself, or you might just find out what happens when you mess with us. The finality of the statement echoed in my mind, but within that chaos, I felt Emma's delicate hand squeezing mine, anchoring me against the tempest. There was fear, yes, but a powerful sense of connection, and for the first time amidst all this upheaval, I sensed a shared determination rising between us, a subtle alliance against the storm brewing just outside the diner walls. What exactly had I unearthed, standing at the crossroads of danger and connection? I was left teetering precariously, waiting for the next revelation that would tip the scales, but this time, I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. The air in the diner crackled with tension, infused with a mixture of confusion and a sense of impending doom. As the jeering laughter of the newcomers faded into heavy silence, I could feel the weight of every gaze settling on me like a shroud. The words of warning echoed in my mind: "You're messing around with our girl," as if they were a death knell, marking the end of any semblance of normalcy in my life. That I looked at Emma, whose pale face seemed to morph the very essence of my reality. Her delicate grip on my hand spoke volumes, weaving a fragile thread of connection as her eyes darted nervously from the aggressive figure to Jerry, who stood now with his jaw clenched, eyes hardening. It was as though he could decipher the unspoken truths swirling thickly in the air, while I struggled to comprehend my own emotions. "Let's get out of here," I muttered, my fear fighting against the rising adrenaline that caused my heart to pound in my chest like a war drum. I pulled Emma gently, but she stayed rooted to the spot, her grip tightening on my hand as though she feared losing me in the chaos surrounding us. She whispered urgently, lowering her voice even further, a shield against the chaos. "We can't give them what they want. They want to provoke us, to show they're powerful, then what do we do?" My voice was barely above a hiss, caught in the tormented grip of confusion and desperation. "Stand here while they threaten us." Emma's eyes held a fierce light, and I caught a glimpse of her inner strength, the very essence that had drawn me in from the start. "We have to stay calm. If we react, they'll see it as weakness. Trust me." Even as she said the words, I felt the stares of those raucous patrons bore down on us, the tension thick enough to cut through. Yet, at that moment, it was her conviction that offered me a flicker of warmth in the storm that raged around us. Then, just as the silence threatened to swallow us whole, Jerry took a step forward, his presence commanding attention. "That's enough," he said, his voice surprisingly steady amidst the din. "They don't know what they're talking about." The lead aggressor narrowed his eyes, clearly unwilling to back down. "And who are you to tell us what to do? You think you can just come in here and act like this? You're a part of this too, Jerry." His tone dripped with a mixture of disdain and amusement, as if he was toying with us like we were insects in a jar. Before Jerry could respond, Emma's voice rose above the murmur of uncertainty. "We don't want any trouble," she said, holding her ground, and although her voice trembled slightly, there was an undeniable power in her stance. I found myself marveling at her bravery, even as fear fluttered in my gut. In that moment of raw vulnerability, an unexpected kindness swept through me. It was an understanding that beneath the turmoil, despite the danger, we stood together against an unseen tide. "We're not your enemies," I echoed, my voice steadier now, rallying behind her. "We're just trying to figure things out." The challenger studied us, and for a heartbeat, the tension in the air seemed to shift. Their laughter, once pointed and cruel, faded into a ripple of uncertainty, as if they were reconsidering their approach. But respite was brief. Just as I thought we might have turned a corner, a voice shouted from the back of the diner. "Someone should teach that punk a lesson." "No." Emma's instinctive shout rang out, and the moment that followed was a whirlwind. The lead aggressor lunged forward, fists clenched, and I moved in tandem with Emma, instinct taking hold. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a figure stepped in, tall, imposing, and radiating an aura that instantly commanded attention. A hush fell over the room as recognition washed over faces like waves breaking against a shore. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded, his eyes sharp, scanning the chaos like a seasoned general. The household suddenly grew smaller as patrons shrank back, and out of the gathered patrons stepped a familiar face, our company's CEO, Nicholas Wright, the very man whose shadow loomed larger each day over my career. For a fleeting moment, my heart soared. I was in the presence of someone with immense power, a figure I had admired from a distance. Yet that sense of hope was quickly eclipsed by the reality of what this meant. Nicholas was now entangled in the very mess I had stumbled into. "Is this the company's new hire?" he sneered, eyes now locked on me, as if he could detect every thread of confusion weaving through my very being. I would have expected better discretion from someone representing the firm. In trying to keep things calm, I managed to say, desperately wanting to shield Emma from this mounting hostility. The tension was palpable, and yet, despite the fear entwining us, I felt a glimmer of reassurance igniting within me. Nicholas wasn't here to simply watch, he craved control. Calm. Is that why you're making a scene and risking the goodwill of our clients? His words dripped with condescension, but I sensed something else, a deeper motivation lurking behind the bravado. The glittering veneer of his authority hid secrets of its own, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just beginning to scratch the surface. And then, as our eyes locked, there was an unexpected flicker of recognition, the ghosts of the past swirling between us. What if this wasn't just a chance meeting? What if it was destiny unearthing tangled connections I had yet to realize? As our confrontation reached a deafening crescendo, fear transformed into a fire within me. Something in the room shifted, an unyielding certainty intertwining my fate with Emma's, and now, perhaps, with someone whose ruthless ambition threatened to consume us all. With everything on the line and the storm only just beginning to swirl around us, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, teetering on the edge of revelation. What had I unleashed, and would I survive the fallout? The diner's atmosphere pulsated as we stood at that volatile brink, the electrifying silence almost unbearable against the backdrop of simmering confrontation. Nicholas Wright's gaze felt like a spotlight, bearing down on me, magnifying the uncertainty that gripped my heart. I could sense the delicate balance of power shifting, like a live wire ready to spark chaos at any moment. Emma continued to hold my hand, her fingers intertwining tightly with mine, a small anchor in this tempest. Her eyes flitted between Nicholas and the increasing hostility of the crowd. In that instant, I saw the uncertainty mirrored in her expression. It was as if we were teetering on the same precipice, fear and defiance mingling, a silent plea for strength threading us together. Damar. Right, Emma ventured, her voice steady yet laced with anxiety, this is not the time or place for this. We just want to enough. He snapped, cutting her off sharply. The crowd erupted into a hushed murmur, fascinated and fearful, as his commanding presence loomed over us. You think your little display merits anyone's sympathy? You're naive. Naive? Or perhaps brave enough to confront those who thrive on fear. I countered, adrenaline surging through me. I hadn't intended to speak, it just poured out, a raw defiance rising from deep within. Nicholas' lips curled into a semblance of amusement, a predatory glint in his eyes. Bravery or foolishness? It depends on the outcome. I felt Emma's grip falter ever so slightly at my side, a fleeting moment of doubt blooming before I tightened my hold, reminding her of our unity. In that moment, I was grateful for her presence. Everything I had faced since this whirlwind began had prepared me for this confrontation, had built this unexpected resilience in me. Despite the rising tide of tension, a boy from a nearby table spoke up, his tiny voice breaking through the din. Leave them alone. They didn't do anything to you. His naive innocence shone brightly against the tension, and I couldn't help but feel a warmth unfurl within me, urging me to keep standing my ground. The future of our tomorrow, Nicholas remarked sarcastically, his smile thin. Yet I saw a hint of something behind the facade, perhaps even a flicker of uncertainty behind those steely eyes, a question of loyalty and expectation. Can't you see? This is what bullying looks like, Emma pressed further, her voice imbued with desperate strength. And it's not okay. Not here. Not anywhere. For a brief second, the world held its breath. I felt the tide surge against the crew of aggressors, an unmistakable shift as a few heads nodded in quiet agreement. Do you think this will be remembered as a moment of courage? Nicholas spat, stepping forward. You're playing with fire. One spark and the whole place won't go up in flames if you stop stoking it. The words escaped me before I could pull them back, the fire I felt igniting into something beyond fear, into hope, defiance, a desire for change. Nicholas turned abruptly, his gaze piercing, contemplating my unexpected interruption. I quickly scanned the reactions around us, feeling our collective breaths intertwined in the air as Jerry stepped forward from behind the bar. Perhaps it's you who should rethink your approach, Nick. They may not be the ones causing trouble, but you certainly are. His declaration carried a ripple through the crowd, and I could almost taste the shifting dynamics. The newcomers, witnessing this unusual camaraderie, exchanged cautious glances, reassessing their approach, and yet, as much as the atmosphere stirred with the promise of solidarity, an unsettling chill left me vulnerable. Amid the collective murmurs, I sensed a darkness brewing, the danger lingering longer than anticipated. Without warning, Emma's phone buzzed violently against the counter, reverberating through the gathering. She jerked her gaze toward the screen, the light illuminating her face in stark anguish. "It's my mom," she whispered, her voice suddenly trembling. "What's wrong?" I asked, immediately concerned, my heart dropping. Her mother had been battling an illness, the shadow of uncertainty looming at the edges of Emma's life. "I don't know, I have to," but as she reached for her phone, the silence in the diner returned, ominous and heavy. "Sorry to interrupt your cozy drama," came the lead aggressor's voice, dripping with malice. "But you're about to find out how false courage can lead to regret." True panic surged through me as I watched the way the crowd shifted. The diner, once a haven of familiarity, felt increasingly like a cage tightening around us. "Emma, don't," I started, my heart pounding as I stepped forward to grab her shoulder. But before I could reach her, the sharp crack of glass shattered the air, sending shards flying. A chair toppled over as Emma's phone slipped from her hand, her face going pale. "Get back!" Jerry shouted, stepping protectively in front of us as the chaos unfurled again. In that moment, I met Nicolas' gaze once more. An understanding passed silently between us, recognition not just of power dynamics, but of deeper connections, hidden dangers that had seeped into the edges of our lives. This night had morphed into something far beyond a mere confrontation. It had ignited a storm of truths, unresolved emotions, and looming dangers. As chaos erupted around us, and the din of panic filled the air, one startling realization struck me hard. As I fought for Emma, I was not simply fighting for her safety. I was fighting for our futures. But in doing so, would I be opening doors I wasn't ready to confront? And just as despair threatened to claw its way back in, I felt that flicker of strength kick into high gear. We had each other, no matter what was to come. But I couldn't shake the horrible sensation that the worst was still ahead, dark shadows looming just beyond the horizon. The air hung thick with urgency as I stepped closer to Emma, my heart racing. Her eyes, wide with fear and concern, held mine captive. The consequences of this night spiraled around us, and every moment stretched into a tense eternity. Amidst the chaos, the boy who had spoken up earlier was huddled beneath a table like a small deer caught in headlights, as if he had realized the fragility of bravery in the face of true danger. The broken glass glimmered like shards of broken dreams, remnants of something shattering beneath the weight of oppression. Emma's phone lay cracked on the floor, its screen now a stark reminder of the fragility of our situation. "Emma." I called, my voice solid and stark against the frantic murmurs. "Stay close." But even as I said it, she seemed lost in her own turmoil. There was a storm brewing within her, a fight against the oppressive weight of uncertainty that threatened to drown her spirit. "Sierra." Emma's brother's voice bounced through the room, laden with alarm. I turned just as he burst through the entrance. Relief crashed over me, a tide rising in the face of the tempest raging around us. "You need to come home. It's Mom." Those words hung in the air like a guillotine waiting to fall. My heart sank, a critter caught in a trap, struggling against the heavy tension spiraling from the burgeoning crisis. I know," Emma replied, her voice trembling. "But I can't leave you. I can't just run away. Not now." I could see the battle inside her, the desire to confront her family's turmoil while equally wanting to stay and fight against the darkness surrounding us. "You need to go," I urged, feeling the power of choice slip between our fingers like sand. "They can handle it. You can't be weighed down by this." Nicholas moved again, positioning himself as if he were the conductor of an orchestra in the midst of chaos. He flicked his wrist, and his followers shifted, tension coiling tighter in the room. The world felt electric, a live wire ready to spark as anger surged beneath my skin. Just as I thought it would escalate, the other patrons, previously engulfed in fear, began to rise as if pulled from their stupor. Jerry's confident stance beside me ignited a glimmer of hope. "We're not afraid of you, Nick," he declared boldly, stepping forward. You want this to be a show of strength? Let's see what real strength looks like. As he spoke, murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, building a wave of solidarity. It was as if the earlier tensions transformed into something more powerful, an unyielding resolve against the perceived power of Nicholas. In an unexpected moment of courage, a woman stepped up beside Jerry, shaking slightly as she mustered the audacity to catch Nicholas' attention. This isn't about you. We see you. We see your fear-mongering for what it is. You don't control us. The words hung in the air, an anthem of defiance that reverberated through our bones. The crowd's energy shifted once more, and I could sense the combined heartbeat of bravery echoing in the gathered souls around us. They were stepping forward, one by one, lending their voices to ours as they found their power amongst the chaos, yet Nicholas' expression darkened, and I could see something snarl behind his eyes, a fearsome rage boiling just below the surface. You think this will end well for you? He spat, fury lacing every word. Just then, Emma's cell phone buzzed again on the floor, the screen fractured and flickering as if sharing the tension weighing on us all. Snapping my attention back to her, I seized this crumbling moment. Emma, if you need to go, if your family needs you, you have to go now. It'll be okay. I'll stay here, I promise. But her voice was barely a whisper, hesitation wrapped in uncertainty. No buts. You're fighting your own battle now. I'll handle this. A flicker of understanding passed between us, momentarily illuminating the path to the decision she faced, the desperation shared in our eyes. She hesitated, torn, and I could feel how difficult it was, the weight of the choice crashing heavy in the air. With shaking hands, she reached for my cheek, her thumb grazing my skin, a balm in the tumult of sensation. I don't want to leave you, she admitted, her voice small yet cutting through the storm like a beacon of courage. I won't let you face your mom alone. Go, Emma. I'll wait for you. And just like that, she nodded, her resolve igniting amidst the whirlwind. As she turned towards her brother, we holding on to that moment of stillness, a breath steeped with the knowledge that we both had to carry these challenges separately for a while longer. As she stepped back, the electric chaos reignited, Nicholas' face darkening as he sensed the rift forming among his followers. But before Emma could reach the door, I shouted, "You'll be okay. We'll get through this." The words echoed through the din, a promise forged in the fiery crucible of chaos. As the diner erupted into a symphony of voices, the atmosphere alive with confrontation, I suddenly felt a sinking chill wash over me. A figure had slipped through the door behind Emma, cloaked in shadows, invisible in the chaos. I wouldn't advise moving a muscle, a voice called out, laced with menace, rising above the noise. As our collective breaths caught in horror, I recognized that voice. It was someone I'd never expected, someone who held more secrets than I ever anticipated. And as the flicker of recognition ignited, fear gripped my heart anew. The confrontation was no longer just a battle for ourselves, it felt like a tempest expanding outwards, threatening to swallow everyone in its wake. And just as the tension hit a breaking point, I knew, the night was eerily far from over. The standoff hung in the air, pregnant with uncertainty, as the figure stepped fully into the light. My heart raced, each pulse feeling like a drumbeat echoing in the thick silence that had swallowed the room. It was Sarah, the waitress whose unassuming presence had always brought a sense of warmth to our late-night gatherings. But tonight, the warmth felt like a distant memory, eclipsed by a chilling realization. Sarah? I breathed, disbelief mixing with dread. She had always been more than just a waitress, she had been a confidant, a person who understood the unspoken parts of our lives within these walls. How could she be here, and what did this mean for us? Everyone, put your hands where I can see them, she stated, her voice devoid of the soft lilt that had characterized our previous interactions, replaced by a sharp edge that seemed to cut through the tension. Her eyes flickered across the room, capturing the fear, confusion, and even courage that had started to bloom just moments before. Nicholas, emboldened by her presence, sneered. Good to see you, Sarah. Looks like you've picked your side, he mocked, the malicious glee evident in his tone. His henchmen shifted, sensing the change in dynamics like a pack ready to pounce, but Sarah remained steadfast, her stance primed but her expression unreadable. This isn't about sides, Nick. It's about survival. Yours and theirs. The resolve in her voice held a strange power, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name but felt deeply beneath the fear knotting my stomach. Survival? Jerry echoed, incredulity laced into his voice. You're with him. You've been a part of this all along. I've done what I had to do to keep my family safe, she replied, her eyes narrowing as she locked gazes with Nicholas, a tempest swirling in their depths. I didn't choose this path, but I will do what's necessary. Emma's eyes widened as she turned to me, her worry palpable, and whispered, how could she do this? She was part of our safe space, but the diner was no longer safe, the shroud of danger had been lifted, and we were all exposed. A tangible sense of betrayal and confusion swept through the crowd, threatening the fragile resolve we'd built just moments ago. Make no mistake, I've always watched over you all, Sarah continued, her gaze sweeping over us, an intensity that felt predatory. But things are changing, and you either adapt or become casualties. You choose. Is that supposed to inspire loyalty? Jerry spat back, defiance rippling through him. You think we'll just roll over? Before she could respond, a ruckus surged outside, drawing our attention momentarily away from the escalating confrontation. The sounds of shouting, tires screeching, and something heavier thumping against the alley walls sent a fresh wave of fear through us. What was happening out there, and how did it tie into this disaster unfolding inside? Nicholas smirked, gleeful in his anticipation. Looks like reinforcements are arriving. Care to test your bravery? The crowd tensed at the implications of his words, glances darting nervously between one another. It was clear they were feeling the weight of the choices before us: stay and confront a growing peril, or flee and risk losing everything. But amidst that collective heartbeat, a quiet resolve ignited once more as solidarity flickered in the eyes of the patrons, and then I remembered something that shifted the tide of my fear into something bolder: a conversation I had once overheard between Emma and Sarah, discussing the strength of community. Perhaps if we unified, we could withstand whatever storm was approaching together. Listen. I shouted, cutting through the chaos, mustering every bit of strength I could find. This isn't just about us anymore. Whatever happens outside could reach us in moments. But we are stronger together. The voices around me began to rise, fueled by that flicker of anger and courage ignited in the heart of the diner. Emma took a step forward, her face set in determination, echoing my sentiments. Whoever is out there, whoever thinks they can take our hope from us, we won't let that happen. We stand as one. As the words rippled through our crowd, a shield of unity formed between us, a pulsating barrier charged with a collective desire for survival. Sarah's expression twisted, caught between fear and calculation, as if she was wrestling against the very thing that had haunted her choices all along. At that moment, another loud crash echoed outside, the din of chaos crashing through the door alongside a gust of cold air. An unfamiliar figure barreled through, body silhouetted against the chaos beyond. Just as I caught a glimpse of the newcomer's face, one I had never expected to see in this context, it was my uncle, Randy, his features twisted with desperation, eyes wide and breath coming in asymmetrical gasps. That I need to warn you. He shouted, urgency dripping from every word, but before he could spill whatever revelation loomed in the air, a sound like thunder cracked through the diner, freezing everyone in a moment of stunned silence. The lights flickered ominously, and every heart skipped a beat in that fleeting span of time. Standing on the edge of calamity, emotions blazing, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Whatever awaited us next, uncertainty clung to our shoulders, heavy like a shroud. The night wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about unraveling the hidden threads connecting us all, threads that may have been woven tighter than we ever imagined. And just like that, I understood, once the truth surfaced, we would either shatter or emerge stronger together amidst the chaos that held us in its grip. The shadows in the diner grew long, stretching like the uncertainty that loomed over us, creeping ever closer with every heartbeat. I felt the weight of Randy's presence wash over me, a mix of confusion and familiarity that felt like a cold embrace on the cusp of a storm. The air crackled with anticipation as my uncle stood there, breathless and wild-eyed, suspended between apprehension and the desperate need to share his news. "Get down!" he suddenly shouted, fear pulsing through his voice like a warning bell. He lunged forward, pushing someone to the side as he stumbled into the diner, eyes darting around frantically. His presence, electric and jarring, forced a tight knot of panic to coil in my stomach. Before I could respond, a series of loud bangs reverberated outside, echoing through the walls of the diner like gunshots. The collective breath of patrons hung suspended, unspoken thoughts racing like fireflies in the growing shadows. Screams erupted outside, piercing the thick veil of apprehension that had settled over us, igniting a fire of primal fear within the hearts of everyone there. "Randy, what are you talking about?" I managed to choke out, my voice quivering on the edge of uncertainty, yearning for safety amidst the din of chaos. "What's happening?" He turned to me, desperation morphing his features into something I barely recognized. "The people who have come for you, they're not just here for the diner," he stammered. "They're here for you, and they won't stop until they get what they want." The words hit like a punch to the gut, sending shockwaves through the crowd. My mind raced, reeling from the implication. What does that even mean? I managed to say, grasping at the fragments of understanding that danced just out of reach. How had I become a target? Suddenly, the weight of Sarah's earlier words settled like a stone in my chest. Survival, choices, and now, threats hovering on the periphery of our fragile sanctuary. "Randy, we need you to explain," Emma demanded, her voice clear and fierce, cutting through the swirling chaos. In that moment, I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes, and it breathed life into the trepidation settling around us. "What are they after?" he hesitated, glancing around the room as if the walls might betray us. "Years ago, before you were even born, a decision was made, a deal sealed within the shadows of your family's past. They think you hold the key, and they'll stop at nothing to unlock it." The crowd, momentarily hushed, erupted in whispers laced with confusion and fear. My mind raced, the weight of the revelation palpable as I struggled to piece together the fragments of my family history and their implications. "What key?" I asked, desperate for clarity, for any thread to hold on to in this spiraling descent. What did my family do? But before I could delve deeper, chaos erupted outside once more, an unexpected clash punctuating the unfolding scrutiny within. A scuffle echoed through the doorway, a cacophony of shouts and pounding fists. The enemy had arrived. Randy's gaze shifted, the urgency in him morphing into a desperate caution. "You need to hide, now," he begged, but a voice from the back called out, a familiar voice that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "Don't you dare!" Sarah barked, a fierceness etched across her face like iron. "You think you can just waltz in here and send everyone running?" "Sarah, now's not the time," Randy shot back, panic flaring in his eyes. "This is beyond all of you. They could tear this place apart to get to." Before he could finish, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass echoed through the diner, and in an instant, the door burst open. Figures clad in dark attire spilled into the room, their faces hidden behind masks of purpose, intent. They moved like a wave of darkness converging on our fragile light. I felt the blood drain from my face as realization gripped me like a vice. This was no ordinary scuffle. It was a confrontation that threatened to rip apart the very fabric of our lives, every secret laid bare in a desperate attempt to protect or reclaim something lost. "Stay close," I yelled over the rising din, instinctively grabbing Emma's wrist as I pulled her toward the back of the diner. We began to navigate the encroaching chaos, adrenaline coursing through us and igniting an unquenchable desire for survival as we attempted to secure ourselves from the looming threat. But just as we rounded the corner, I spotted Sarah standing her ground, eyes locked with one of the masked figures who had taken center stage amidst the chaos. In that split second, something profound flickered behind her gaze: recognition, fear, and perhaps a hint of remorse. I could see the battle waging within her, and it sent my heart racing anew. "Sarah," I called out, trying to catch her attention, to pull her back from the precipice of whatever choices lay ahead for her. "You don't have to do this. You can come with us." But instead of retreating, she stood firm, a warrior in the face of overwhelming odds. "No. You don't understand what's at stake," she shouted, her voice keen with urgency. If I don't do this, if I don't protect you, everyone I love will pay. The passion in her voice was both a plea and a warning, echoing deeper questions that throbbed within me like a heartbeat, a thread waiting to be pulled. As the first of the masked intruders lunged toward her, time seemed to slow. A heartbreaking realization crashed down like a wave. I had to make a choice, not just for my own survival, but for everyone who had gathered here to stand against a tide of darkness that threatened to sweep us away. Randy. We need to move. I shouted, pulling Emma behind me as the chaos unfolded and the weight of everything, the hidden truths, our intertwined fates wrapped around us like vines. But even amidst the fiercest storm, a flicker of hope remained, the undeniable, unwavering bond of community, and the choices we were yet to make beneath the weight of destiny. But was that enough to guide us through the chaos as everything began to shift and change? In that moment, as shadows surged and the hidden threads of our lives began to unravel, I felt the anticipation of something deeply transformative and terrifying hovering just a breath away. And then, as I tore my gaze from Sarah's determined figure, something inexplicable happened. An unexpected flash of insight sparked like fire, illuminating the darkness just long enough to offer a path I never anticipated. The din of chaos around us morphed into a fractured symphony of fear and adrenaline. Each shout, each desperate cry, echoed deeply within the confines of my mind. I couldn't help but glance back at Sarah, standing her ground against the encroaching darkness, manifesting a strength that seemed simultaneously heroic and tragic. My heart wrenched at the sight. Was this the girl who had once shared laughter with me over burnt diner coffee, now caught in a battle of monumental stakes? Move! Randy shouted, his voice piercing through the confusion, as he grabbed my shoulder and dragged me toward the kitchen. Emma stumbled slightly, her grip tightening on my wrist, her eyes wide with disbelief. We pushed through the swinging doors just as a loud crash erupted in the main area, sending shards of glass raining through the air like deadly confetti. The kitchen was a twisted haven of memories, familiar scents of fried food and burnt oil hung heavy in the air. Cooks and waitstaff poured in, some clutching kitchen utensils and others ducking behind counters. The survival instinct ignited within us, urging me to keep moving, but dread pooled in my stomach as I paused to glance back, stealing one last look at the unfolding chaos. The sight of masked figures commandeering the space made my heart sink further into worry. What do they want with me? My voice trembled, barely echoing above the tumult. What did my family do? I could feel the pressure of Randy's gaze resting heavily on my shoulders as if he carried the weight of our combined uncertainties. They believe you're the key to something they've wanted for years, he said, his breath heavy with the strain. They think the truth about your family's past lies with you, and they'll stop at nothing to find it. What truth? I pressed, my heart racing. Emotions swirled thickly around us, the specter of betrayal, and the fierce desire to protect those I cared about. The shadows cast by this relentless threat were closing in, tangible and suffocating, but between Randy's fervent explanations and the cacophony just beyond the kitchen door, warmth punctured the biting chill of fear. I turned to Emma, who stood beside me, her brows knitted in resolve. "We'll find a way," she murmured softly, a flicker of optimism grounding her words. I nodded, the bond between us fortifying even as the world outside threatened to unravel our very existence. Suddenly, the kitchen's rear exit caught my eye. "We can slip out through there," I suggested, my heart pounding with a blend of hope and trepidation. Just then, a figure burst through the kitchen doors, wild-eyed and frantic. Marty, one of the waitstaff, his shirt stained with grease and panic, there overpowering the front. He gasped, clutching at his chest as if trying to regain control. "We have to get out now," panic surged anew, but Emma grabbed Marty's arm, drawing strength from his presence. "Then we can't waste time. We have to go." As we edged toward the exit, barely able to tread silently through the chaos echoing just beyond, Randy paused. "Wait," he said, urgency threading through his words. "I have to tell you something before you leave." My stomach twisted again, knotting tighter. I turned to him, but his gaze shifted, darting anxiously between the door and my face. "If you ever have a choice to confront them, do it," he pressed, his words bare and raw. "You'll uncover more than you imagine." An answer you didn't even know you needed. "What do you mean?" I wondered aloud, but before he could explain further, the sound of shattering glass resonated again, drowning my question that we don't have time. Emma urged, pulling me toward the rear exit. As we made our silent escape, the world outside was a cacophony of disarray, shouts and screeching tires enveloping us like a dark shroud. The diner, once a refuge, transformed into a battleground. Just as I thought we could catch our breath outside, a glaring spotlight illuminated the parking lot, a searching beam that pierced the night as if the universe itself was singling us out. An SUV pulled up, its headlights strong enough to blind momentarily. We need to move. Marty cried, his eyes wide with fear and urgency, sparking a frantic rush of adrenaline within me. But as I turned to flee, a movement caught my eye, a figure in the shadows, half hidden behind the SUV, beckoning us. Trust me, the voice urged, familiar and unsettlingly calm. My heart skipped a beat as I squinted through the glare. Sarah. The name slipped from my lips like a prayer. But the moment hung heavy, an uncertain heartbeat between trust and fear. Just then, the SUV's rear door swung open, and in that split-second moment of indecision, the darkness crept in closer, tightening the veil of uncertainty around us. Would we step toward safety, or would we plunge deeper into the chaos of our fates? As I stood at the threshold between light and shadow, the resolve to protect our shared futures burned bright within me. But with every breath echoing with imminent peril, I realized how stacked the odds truly were, teetering precariously on the edge of revelation. And then, with urgency clawing at my throat, I made a choice, the kind that would leave us all forever changed, and stepped into the darkness, willing to confront whatever lay ahead. As I slipped into the shadowy embrace of the open SUV, a tremor of uncertainty coursed through my body. Sarah's reassuring presence momentarily melted the icy grip of fear, but the weight of the decision lingered heavily on my shoulders. The chaos outside faded slightly as I grappled with what this moment could mean for us all. Get in, she urged, her voice edged with desperation. I glanced back at Emma and Marty, two faces filled with equal parts hope and dread. They quickly followed me, muscles taut and minds racing, as the world outside echoed with more shouts and shattering silence. Drive. Sarah commanded the driver, who I barely spotted in my peripheral vision, his face shrouded in darkness. The engine roared to life, shaking off the stillness of uncertainty that had enveloped us. As we sped away, an unshakable tension ran through the air, punctuated only by the frantic thump of my heartbeat. What in the world happened back there? I finally breathed out, turning to Sarah, seeking clarity in the whirlwind. Why are they after me? She hesitated for an instant, her eyes flickering with shadows of past burdens. There's so much you don't know, she replied, her voice strained as though anchoring heavy truths in her throat. About your family, about your past. With each revelation, my heart felt like it was being wrapped in thorns, torn between a deep-seated longing for understanding and the dread of everything that might unfold. Just tell me, Sarah. Please. The company you think your family ran is much more than a diner. They were key players in something bigger, something dangerous. And now it's come back for you, she said, her gaze piercing into mine, as if daring me to grasp the weight of her words. My thoughts spiraled. All those moments spent in the diner, the laughter, and the warmth, it felt so distant now, as if it belonged to someone else. What do you mean? What were they involved in? I can't go into it right now. But you need to understand. She paused, looking out the window, her expression a tapestry of loss and determination. They're not just threats. They're a family line carrying secrets buried in blood. Secrets they believe you can unlock. A wave of nausea hit me. The world I had once considered ordinary was now ripped apart, reframed by a reality I hadn't chosen. Who were these people, and why was their history entwined with mine? I wanted to scream, to claw back to that simpler existence, but every moment concluded that no matter what I wished for, the truth was closing in. Behind me, Emma reached out, her hand found mine, an anchor in this churning sea of uncertainty. Her touch reminded me of resilience, and I drew strength from it. We'll figure this out together, she whispered, her voice a balm over the storm brewing inside. As the SUV wound its way through unfamiliar streets, the headlights projected eerie shadows on building facades. A fleeting thought crossed my mind: what if people were betrayed not only by others but by the very history they thought they belonged to? Just as that thought settled, a sudden lurch of the vehicle interrupted, snapping my attention back to the present. That we have to pull over, the driver announced abruptly, glancing nervously in the rearview mirror. They're on to us. The weight of panic intensified as I turned to the others. What do we do? I whispered, feeling the urgent pulse of fear resonate. Sarah glanced at me with a spark of resolve. We need to regroup. There's a safe house not far from here. It's our best shot at understanding what's happening and how to fight back. Marty's face paled more than usual, but he nodded, determination flickering for a moment across his features. Emma squeezed my hand tighter, grounding me amidst the storm of confusion and terror. For a heartbeat, we were united friends standing against the shadows of past decisions. As we pulled to the side of the road, the adrenaline coursed through my veins, each second stretching tantalizingly thin. Suddenly, a car from behind us accelerated past, a blaring horn filling the air. Craning my neck to see, my breath caught at the sight of a familiar logo emblazoned on the Sidea corporate brand tied to the very existence I was trying to unravel. I felt the explosion of panic ripple through our group. They know. I shouted, adrenaline surging, we need to move, now. But before I could react further, the SUV doors swung open, and the shadows hunched closer to us, revealing masked figures emerging from the darkness. Time seemed suspended as dread tightened around our throats, an agonizing blend of fear and defiance. Stay behind me, Sarah urged, stepping forward, her form a shield against the approaching threat. Whatever happens next, I'll protect you. But before I could comprehend the intensity of her words, I heard a strange crackling sound, and a voice eerily calm came from the masked figures. You should have stayed hidden, Sarah. As they stepped into the glow of the headlights, the face of one of the attackers, Emergita face I recognized. It twisted everything I thought I knew, bringing doubts like a rising tide. The revelation surged forth with venomous clarity, and I felt my world shift yet again. Why are you doing this? I shouted into the dark, my throat dry and my heart pounding. A haunting smile crept across the attacker's face. Some truths are better left buried, but you're about to uncover them all, whether you want to or not. In that moment, I realized the choices I had made were pointing toward a truth none of us were prepared for, and as shadows loomed ever closer, I wondered if I could face what lay ahead or if I would be lost to the darkness entirely. As I stood there in the midst of the encroaching chaos, the weight of revelation settled heavily upon me. The attacker's smile widened, and despite the impending threat, a disturbing chill ran down my spine. Some truths are better left buried, but you're about to uncover them all, whether you want to or not. The words echoed in my mind, a forewarning of the storm that surrounded us. Run! I screamed, instinctively pushing Emma and Marty back as I stepped in front of them, ready to protect the fragile light we had forged in this darkening reality. But Sarah's resolute figure stood unmoving, my protector against a storm I barely understood. I watched as the masked figures drew closer, shadows stretching fingers of dread that curled around our hearts. Each step they took sent ripples of fear coursing through me, and yet, amidst the trepidation, one vivid truth washed over me: I would not let them take us without a fight. Emma squeezed my hand again, her eyes fierce with determination. We face this together, she whispered, her voice firm, igniting the flickering spark of hope within me. I didn't have to carry this burden alone, and I realized that whatever tides pushed toward the unearthing of secrets, together we could navigate them. Everything blurred into the periphery as the masked figures closed in, their intentions palpable, chillingly clear. And yet, in that fractal of chaos, a revelation surfaced. Beneath the threat, I could harness the power of those united before meth people who had become more than mere bystanders in my journey. Listen, I spoke up, letting my voice rise above the din, desperate to find strength in our numbers. We're here because we care about each other. Whatever is happening, we won't allow fear to demolish the courage we've built. We are more than our pasts, and we have the power to face this together. The words poured from my heart, resonating within the gathering chaos. A flicker of rebellion ignited in the faces around me. Sarah looked back at me, her eyes softening, reflecting the depth of shared burdens. There was strength in her, pure fiery courage. I noticed something break in the predator's confidence, a sliver of uncertainty raced between them. In a desperate moment, a flicker of wild resolve surged. Let's make them see we're not going down without a fight. I declared, adrenaline surging through my veins as I began to move toward the dim strangers, every heartbeat echoing with the power of truth waiting to be unveiled, and before I could grasp what had happened, the shadows began to diverge, as though our brave proclamation had thrown caution to the wind. The masked figure tightened his grip on a weapon, a glimmering flash that caught the light. At the same time, Sarah lunged forward, a fierce defiance bursting forth from her like a phoenix unleashed from despair's ashes. "Step back!" she shouted. The clash between fear and strength erupted around us. I watched helplessly as she stepped into the confrontation, me protective instincts flaring, wanting to pull her back. But there was an undeniable realization: Sarah bore her own scars and secrets. She wasn't merely a pawn in this twisted game, she had fought to survive longer than any of us knew. With the tension splitting the air like a brittle thread, I turned to Emma, feeling her hand quivering in mine. The longing to shield her battled with the necessity of standing firm alongside her. "We're with you," I assured her, enunciating each word with conviction. Marty, emboldened by our force, shouted, "You won't take our hope." "Not here." The noise coalesced into a wave of bravery, each voice weaving an intricate tapestry of solidarity. We each pulled strength from our shared determination, drowning our fears in unity. The shadows flickered as the figures hesitated, a moment of indecision swirling around that felt surreal, alive with potential. Just as the tide of confrontation appeared close to tipping, another voice broke through the chaos. My Uncle Randy surged forward, eyes blazing with a fury fueled by protectiveness. "Your threats to my family. Stand down," he asserted. Unwavering as my heart thundered, I registered the determination on his face, and suddenly, the pieces began aligning. The confrontation wasn't simply a clash of physical threats, it was about legacy, identity, and the very fabric of connection intertwining us all. The core of my family's past was rearing its head, and perhaps, just perhaps, we could confront the ghosts chasing us. In that fleeting moment, clarity struck. Every person within this agitated gathering mattered. We each carried fragmented histories and burdens, but together we ignited something far more potent. With our voices raised in unison, we were not merely fighting against an imminent collapse, we were battling for our future, against the very shadows that sought to define us. The masked figures regained their ground, stepping forward, and that was when I saw my chance, our chance. "Fight with us," I implored as I captained the force of emotions pulsating around us, rallying our combined might. This isn't just about survival, it's about claiming our truths. As uncertainty twisted, determination swelled, and in that raw moment filled with palpable energy, I felt something shift within me, within the others. We were more than just individuals brought together, we were a force rising against the darkness. Just as I sensed victory begin to blossom, a figure emerged from the darkness behind the attackers, and my heart dropped as recognition washed over me. It was Nicholas Wright, his face unmasked, the contours of his expression carving indifference against tremors of fear throughout the room. "Enough," he declared, and the tumult echoed in distorted clarity, silencing us all. "Unmask the coward hiding behind his shadows," I screamed, the words carrying my weight like stones drawing me toward understanding. This was our moment, we had to strike while the iron was hot. Nicholas' voice reverberated like thunder, drawing tension so thick you could almost taste it. "You really have no idea what you're dealing with." The words spiraled from his lips, his demeanor shifting, a fatalistic gaze piercing through me. His revelation hung heavy in the air, and time shifted again. I felt the heartbeats around me echoing the question lingering within: who was I really? More importantly, what did I embody to these strangers, even to my history? As tension mounted, Nicholas stepped forward, a predator encroaching on prey. "In truth, this is much larger than any of us," he explained, biting words like ice. "It's about family dynamics hiding in shadows far deeper than you can imagine." "What are you hiding?" I demanded, every ounce of determination spilling forth. "What truths haven't you uncovered yet?" The simultaneous questions of why threaded through the haunting tapestry of our surroundings, igniting the resolve to confront the unbearable weight of unasked questions. Nicholas faltered for the briefest of moments, and that was when I saw a sliver of regret, of hesitation behind the bravado. Yet within it, there came a choice, a duality that shifted those darkened edges surrounding us. In that moment, everything slowed down, and I realized he was just as much a man lost in his dreams and fears as I was. Before I could say more, Sarah's hand shot up, fingers trembling, a look of realization setting in her eyes. All of you, fighting for survival, we carry a truth each of us believes. Without facing it, we stand idle as pawns in someone else's game. The moment pulsed with potential, resonating through the air, a single flash capable of unraveling what lay buried beneath. The stakes shifted as Nicholas tossed a glance back, uncertainty flashing across his features, and in that flicker, I saw the cracks in a carefully constructed facade. Who are you, really? I challenged, stepping forward, buoyed by the ethical flash flooding within. What have you buried that we must uncover together? The truth curled around us, and I could almost sense it coiling through the air like a serpent, wrapped tight around the shadows surrounding, demanding acknowledgement. And in that charged moment, even amidst the chaos threatening to explode, I realized we had the power to answer. As breaths shattered through us, we stood at the cusp of uncovering these hidden threads binding us. Now, Nicholas, I implored with conviction threaded through every word, you can choose to stand with us or remain bound to the secrets that brought us here. I in the charged silence, the answers scratched at the surface as uncertainty mingled with vulnerability. And with that revelation washing over us, I understood, we had the power to redefine the narrative. This moment could transform the night forever, but it required courage, the courage to confront more than just the threats but the very identities harboring beneath. Then, with the certainty that we were more than equal standing together, something unparalleled surged forth from my chest, strong enough to redefine the foundations beneath us. The truth loomed ahead, waiting in the darkening shadows, and together we had the power to step forward into clarity, into the unknown, into the depths of our own histories, and surely, into the light of dawn waiting just beyond. Let's find out who we are. I shouted, leading everyone into the unfolding chaos, as the shadows whispered tales of ancient bonds yearning for the light. And as I raised my voice alongside those standing resolute in solidarity, a fierce determination arose. Together we would uncover the secrets that bound us. Together, we would rise above. In that heart-rending climax of courage, I understood that only through unity could we hope to not only survive but reclaim our truths from the darkness that threatened to consume us. Claiming our essence would require both strength and vulnerability, demanding every ounce of resolve we could muster, and just as we plunged into the unknown, I felt the lingering promise of hope ignite within me, hope that even through the wreckage, we could reconstruct our fates into something brighter. Because after all, it wasn't just our lives on the line, it was an entire legacy that demanded justice, and I would not waver in my fight to claim it. In that defining moment, we shattered the illusion of fear and stepped into authenticity, the lines of everything we held dear drawn clearer than ever before. Bound together by a stronger tapestry woven from the threads of our joined histories, we would face the truth with our heads held high, unafraid of the shadows lurking behind. Let's uncover who we are. My words rang out as we charged forward into the heart of the revolution, an unbreakable unity built on the foundations of trust and courage. And in that moment, I knew, whatever lay ahead, together we would find our way, forever transformed by the truth we would finally embrace, casting our shining light into the world at large. With that, we fused into a cascade of strength, embracing the dark with newfound hope that illuminated the unknown path ahead.